Okay, my name is Dustin Betts. I'm the Founder Institute's Community and Content Manager, and I'm here with Karel Bourgois. He is the founder of Voxist. It's a personal digital assistant that replaces your old voicemail system with personalized greetings, voice-to-text transcriptions, and more. Prior to founding Voxist, Karel previously works throughout the mobile communications industry, including 7 years as a product manager and internal team director with Orange and with Alcatel before that. So Karel Bourgois, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Dustin, to have me on this video.
Yeah, so before we really dive into your startup Voxist, can you tell our audience a little bit more about yourself and your background? I touched really briefly on your resume, but what were your professional or even personal experiences that led you to eventually founding Voxist?
Sure. So yeah, I've been working in the telecom industry as a whole for the last 20 years, or let's say kind of 10 years, mostly on the IT side when I started my career as a young engineer, and the last 10 years more as a product or a business development person. I work both for carriers, for handset manufacturers, for service providers, so in a lot of different roles. And as you mentioned, so the last few years I was working for Orange, which is the largest carrier in France. And the last years of that, I was the head of product for an application called Libon. And Libon was an app which was kind of what today will be something like WhatsApp or any of those communication app where you can do voice, text, and that's where I started experiencing around the voicemail, because I thought it was a old-fashioned service that really hadn't changed much since the old tape recorder. Functionally speaking, it was a different user interface, but the functionalities and the benefits were still the same, and were not really attuned with the needs of user today. And so that's how I came up with the idea that behind Voxist. I started trialing a few stuff at Libon, and then I asked Orange if I could actually leave the company and create something specific around that. So some of the intellectual property within Voxist come from Orange.
Okay. Great. Well, yeah, you've kind of alluded to it, like leading in that direction. So, I mean, I've read a little bit about Voxist. I know it's like smart, personalized voicemail communication, but yeah, let's just kind of hear it from you, from somebody who has no context at all, the short pitch. What is Voxist?
So yeah, Voxist is a smart voicemail where the idea is that, in today's world where we are so much pressure and time constraint, people don't really have time to listen to voicemail anymore. And at the same time, we all expect something very personalized, and we don't like hearing the voicemail or the greetings when we call somebody, because most of the time the greetings are really boring, very standard. Even sometimes it's just a number, and you don't even know if you call the correct person. So the idea was we could bring back some warmth, some emotion with the way you communicate with people that are trying to reach you, and at the same time bring more productivity for you as a receiver. So it's a product that's really useful for people that get a lot of calls. It's very different type of segment. So a lot of our users are sales people, by example, that receive, I have some sales people that receive up to 300 voicemail a month, and there is for sure no way for them to listen to all of those. So in the past, it meant a lot of frustration for their clients, because they arrived in meetings and they would say, "Oh, sorry, I didn't know you told me you wanted this and that," because I didn't listen to the voicemail. So by reading it, it's much faster. So the transcription is very efficient, but it's also used by lawyers, plumbers, executives, anyone who is really dependent on his mobile and doesn't really have a support system where they can say, okay, it doesn't matter anyway, then we'll go back at the office and somebody will take care of the problem. And that's where the personalized greeting is also important, because for some of those people who have a strong relationship with a different type of colors, they can make something that's really targeting a specific person and bring more closeness in the relationship. Now the thing is that it's also fun for people in the daily use, because by example, in my case, I have a voicemail just for my wife, and when she calls, she has my voice saying, "Oh, my love, I'm so sorry, I'm still busy" or something. So it's quite nice for her. But I also have something much more professional for my banker, by example, and when he calls, he's always surprised that he hears his own name, and he has a greeting just for him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if I have like a really high value client, it seems like, or I guess not even, or just a medium value, I can assign something specific, something I know I wanted to tell this person, like, and expecting them to call me. You can kind of, have it be delivered personally.
So there is different level actually, because you can personalize with your own voice. So you do a recording, but that's something that you will do for like one person. Now, if you want to kind of industrialize it, you can actually write the greeting and use keywords like first name, last name, company name, and then you select a voice, and we'll use a text-to-speech technology. So we will create in real time the greeting based on who is calling you. So in that case, for, as you say, like maybe medium valued customers, you might use that and they will still get something special. And like for a very high value customer, you might just do something with your own voice because you really want that person to feel special.
Yeah, awesome. This is really interesting because, like you said, I mean, the kind of voicemail greeting standardized, it really hasn't changed much since we all got iPhones, basically, and smartphones kind of became everybody's go-to device that they use for everything. And so it does seem like, there's a lot of elements to add this kind of personalized touch, I guess, to voicemail specifically, like broadening out a little bit, and you can narrow it back in towards Voxist if you want. I mean, I want to ask you, just because you have a really extensive industry background in mobile communications, like you mentioned about, I mean, basically all aspects of the business: carrier, handset manufacturers, service providers. What's happening next? Maybe, I mean, everybody kind of hears a little bit about 5G and the coming like Internet of Things. What's kind of big on the horizon that is exciting to you? And maybe what role Voxist might play in what's coming. But is that
So what really made me excited and that pushed me to create Voxist is I've been very much interested in everything that has to do with speech to text and text to speech over the last 10 years or so. It's actually started when I was in the US, and I met the first companies working on automatic speech recognition at a time where it was kind of a joke. We'll all geeks install it just to see how it works, and then we'll make fun of each other trying to figure out what did he really say, because the transcription was so bad. And 5 years ago, it started really becoming a technology that was usable in a user experience that will provide real benefits. And that's when I started thinking, being in the telecom industry, I was seeing all those new devices like the Echo, the Google Home starting to appear, and I was like, wow, this is such a hard thing when you need people to change their habits. You need people to create new form of interaction when there is one place where people talk already all the day, every time, which is the phone. And maybe the phone calls have been going a little lower in volume, but it's still an enormous volume. And on the side, on top of that, of the Western world, it's still one of the main way of communicating, because in a lot of countries, people they don't know how to write or to read. So it's really enormous worldwide. And I was thinking, if we look at this new technology, what you could do on the phone was amazing. And I started from the voicemail aspect because from a technical constraint, it's easier. You don't need both person to have an app. You don't need to be in the carrier network, because you're at the end of a conversation. But my view in the long term is that you will be on a call with someone, and on the call there will be this AI that will be there and that can help. Hi, Dustin, how are you? Voxist, can you tell me if we have a slot available next week where I can have a meeting with Dustin, and Voxist will look maybe in our calendars and find a booking, and so those kind of use case that we do see appear now on specific device. I think that they made more sense in a way on a phone. On a phone line, so I mean not the phone, the device, but really the mobile communication, and that's where I expect Voxist to go. So for the first iteration that we are working on, that is actually funny, because when we started, a lot of people told me, "Oh, Karel, this is crazy. That won't work before 10 years." And the idea is to do bookings through vocal assistant. So you call a restaurant, the restaurant doesn't answer. Instead of going to the voicemail, and probably you hang up and you go on the web, and maybe you don't go to that restaurant, or you go to that restaurant but they have to pay a fee because you will book through some platform. Well, you can make that reservation on the phone through an AI, which is kind of the mirror of Google Duplex. And so that was funny, because I started, people are like, "Oh, that's 10 years away." Then Google Duplex arrived and everybody told me, "Oh, but Karel, this is dead." No, Google is doing it. So, yeah.
Yeah, I love how you brought up, I guess, the kind of the different in-home devices that everybody's both, I guess, was very quick here to adopt, like in Silicon Valley, and then quickly became sort of afraid of, right? Their Echoes and their Google Home devices. But I think, like what you're saying, I mean, it makes total sense. I think that we're going to be interacting more and more with these kinds of AIs verbally, right? So it is going to be essentially voice to text type stuff, and yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense for things like bookings and what you're talking about for like what that next iteration would be. I'm curious. I mean, again, like you can kind of focus on different, I guess, aspects of Voxist, but what are some of the biggest challenges that you've faced? I mean, I don't know. I guess within the telecommunications industry, like what are the barriers here? What are the big things that you run up against in this industry?
I think one of the barrier in a way was being in the telecom industry. So it used to be kind of a sexy industry. We used to have in M&A banking, there was TMT, technology, media, telecom, and it was part of the main focus of a lot of consulting and etc. But now telecom is seen a little as like old-fashioned. It's not like really innovative field. And so for us, when we started and we were categorized as a kind of a telecom service, it was a little boring, and we were working on voicemail. It's a boring industry. On top of that, I'm working on an old-fashioned service. So it was hard to make it appealing to investor, to even customers, and then that kind of changes when the vocal industry kind of created by itself. And so now I'm pitching us more like we are part of the vocal industry, the AI industry, and that kind of reframe the way people look at what we are doing. So that was one issue. One other pure telecom issue that we have is that, so the way the service work is we do what's called a call diversion, call forward. So you get a call and then you forward it to us so we can do the voicemail. But for you to forward it to us, you need to ask your carrier to send that call to us, which is normally something that's been in the telecom standard since the 80s, 90s. So it should be simple. Unfortunately, there are a lot of carriers that don't follow the standard. There are some that don't even decide to provide the service to their customer, and we don't always know. So it means that for us, every time we want to open a new country, we have to check for every single operators. Is it going to work? How is it going to work? So that creates a barrier to entry, which isn't that easy to overcome. So it's been one of the, probably it's still one of the biggest friction we have with adoption.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I feel like I probably, should have asked this earlier, but I'm curious about like what markets you're in currently right now, and the differences globally, right? Like I know people, I guess in India use WhatsApp a lot, right? So it's not actually the same service. I'll start to be incorrect if I try to talk about how these telecoms basically talk to each other. But I guess my layman's impression is that they're more doing stuff with data, whereas you're definitely more like integrated with carriers. And like, how does that conceptualize? Like, how are those markets different? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So currently we've started only in France and the US. We have the service is usable, let's say, in other countries like UK, Spain, and many others where we have some people testing, but it's not live, it's not available officially on the stores. So the two countries where we are officially available is US and France. And as you mentioned, there is a different thing. There is a technical specificity. So there are some countries where the call for that I just discussed is not going to be available at all. So then we can't do anything. Now there are some countries where the usage of voicemail is just not in the habit. So if you take China, by example, you do have some carrier that provide voicemail, but usually the few people that will activate it are Westerners that didn't realize that they are the only one in the country doing it, and they will soon deactivate because every time they would get a Chinese person calling, the person would be like, hello, 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 and they don't get it. They don't know what is a voicemail. They don't expect a voicemail, so it doesn't work for them at all. Those are part of the cultural differences. Now in Africa and a lot of other maybe third world countries, one other aspect that make it very different is people use multiple SIM cards. So instead of having one phone number, you have several phone numbers, because depending on what carrier the person you want to talk to is, you're not going to use the same SIM card. So imagine that, I think it was the case in the US also at the very beginning. Like if you call from AT&T to Verizon, you pay more than if you call from Verizon to Verizon. And so what you will do is you will have a Verizon SIM card to call your Verizon friend and an AT&T SIM card to call your AT&T friends, and you end up having multiple SIM cards. And so in this case, you will have multiple voicemail in a way. So for us, in this case, that means that the value proposition of Voxist might be different, because in fact, we do support multiple numbers. So for those kind of market, maybe the interesting thing for them is not the voice to text, because they are not interested in reading. It's not something that it would be easy to support because of all the dialects locally anyway. But the way we'll market is more, hey, you have one voicemail for all of your SIM cards. So that's the type of thing that you could see differently in different location.
Wow, yeah, that's really, really interesting. Yeah, specifically with the multiple SIM cards and how, yeah, I mean, they're just different. I mean, it's such the proliferation and kind of bifurcations in mobile telecoms. It's really interesting. So I love how there's like, yeah, maybe different UVPs for like these different markets where people are using mobile technologies a little bit differently. You've obviously worked really hard on this company to get it to where it is today. I'm curious, like, what thing have you accomplished, or what have you done that when you look back so far on, what Voxist is today, what are you really proud of in what you built?
A lot. that's a hard question. I think that the main thing I'm proud of is to see that the product is appealing to our users. So every day when I get a 5-star from somebody saying, hey, it's my favorite voicemail, or sometimes I see people that saying that's the best app I ever download. I'm like, wow, because honestly, I don't expect Voxist to ever be the best app for somebody. It's an app which is more like a productivity tool. It's not supposed an app to be the app that I will expect someone to say it's my favorite app on my phone. But when I see that, I feel like, wow, we managed to do a user experience that's really working. And it's true. I mean, when I compare to the other app that do similar things, I do believe we managed to have a user experience that's smoother, nicer, more modern. So I'm very proud of that.
Nice. Yeah, I love that. And solves a real problem for real people. I think that's a testament to it, right? Like it might be a productivity thing, but for somebody who it like is a great amount of value, like it saves them a lot of time or
Yeah.
it lets them deliver something. Yeah, that's awesome. That feels
I mean,
great.
yeah, I mean, one user I had, it was actually at the very beginning. She told me she lost an interview for a job because of her previous voicemail system. She had the old-fashioned voicemail where you need to dial and press, 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever to do different things. And she got the voicemail when she was in the subway. And she couldn't hear it well, and she wanted to save, but she pressed like 6 instead of 5 or 5 instead of 6 because she was stressed, and she erased the voicemail and she lost it. And she
Oh
was like,
man.
if I had Voxist, I would have it in my email. I would have been able to read it anyway, even if I could not listen to it. So that was one of the reasons for her to move to Voxist. And I felt we can really help for people in certain things that might be critical for them.
Yeah, I love that user story. That's great. So this is a generic question that we tend to ask our grads like you who have a lot of traction. I mean, what advice would you offer, generic advice for early stage or entrepreneurs who are just getting started in their journey? What's like the critical thing that you wish you'd known, I don't know, before you got started?
Well, I don't know if something I wish I had known, but something that I did that I found very useful was to look for a lot of advisors. So the Founder Institute I did actually. I was still at Orange at that time. I started the Founder before I created Voxist. Created Voxist during the Founder, like it's part of the normal process. But it got me to meet a lot of people and get a lot of feedbacks. Some of those are still, advising me even now. So that was great. And then along the way after that, I kept trying to get as much as I could feedbacks from people who had a different experience, different skill set. And I think you as a founder, it's hard because you have to get this fine balance between trusting your guts, being sure of your vision, but at the same time being totally open to get totally challenged by other people, and that's very important because sometimes you end up being in French we have an expression that I'm trying to figure out in English. No, I don't find it, but you are too involved in the daily activities, you lose the big picture. And so I think having advisor that have this third level view is really important. So that's one of the best advice probably that I had, and was try to meet as many people that could help you along the way.
Nice. Awesome. So just to kind of wrap up here, I mean, where's Voxist headed next? Any big news you want to share with the Founder Institute community or asks for our audience or anything like that?
Yeah, well, so as I mentioned, we're live in the US, which I did not mention. It's pretty new. So we opened in the US in March. We are growing very fast, actually faster than in France. Now we have, since last month, more users now in the US than we have in France. And we launched recently the personalized greeting feature that I mentioned earlier, which is the one where you can use keywords and use text to speech. So I really love to have anyone from the Founder in the US that can download the app, test it, to give us some feedback. That'd be great. And then for us the next stage is reworking on the personal assistant, as I mentioned, with things that where we can interact and no longer just having a voicemail, but really an interaction with the voicemail, and that's the next big stage for us. I hope to have the beta version of that launch in France before the end of the year. And as soon as we are done here, hopefully we'll start working with launching in the US too.
All right. So anybody who's listening, go check it out, right? They can find it on the Android or the iOS store, Voxist, Voxist. Yeah, check it out, try it out. And I'm going to. So I haven't downloaded your app yet, but I'm going to check it out. Yeah.
And we probably will make an offer and see how we can make that happen for the Founder Institute graduate, so they can get, if they want to go to the premium version, we can give them a cool deal.
That would be awesome. Yeah, let's chat about that offline. Yeah, that'd be great. Anything else to add here, Karel? Or yeah, I feel like this was great.
Well, no, thank you very much, for having us on the show, and I hope everybody that listened to the video found that interesting. Happy to get any feedback, so you can find me on LinkedIn on the Founder Institute directory anyway.
Yeah, we'll include links to your LinkedIn in the profile piece that we write up. So probably when people are listening, they'll be able to click right over. Want to just say, yeah, thank you again, Karel Bourgois, for speaking with us about Voxist. Much appreciated. And yeah, take care.
Thank you, Destin.